person, and he's in his second year of head coach there. And the guy's story is pretty amazing. And I think when we're doing our stuff and we want to be winners and we're talking about the sacrifices that it takes, you guys sacrificed extra hours, extra weekends, extra days just to hit goals. And you did it because you didn't want to lose. And you make the extra 100 phone calls because you didn't want to lose. And all the reasons that you have it. And when you look at a guy like this guy was, when you're kids, I know we all joke around about this is for the championship of the world. Well, this guy was the champion of the world. So you take the entire world, you put all their people out there, and this guy was number one. And then he followed that up with an Olympics and came in second by, I think it was 1 point, something ridiculous, and pretty annoying thing there for him. But he wasn't happy with number 2 in the world. He wanted to be number 1 in the world again. And then at age 36, I want you to imagine that when you talk about athletes and things, he still took a bronze medal in the World's Championship. And so, that's just the international story. There's about 20 other gold medals in there internationally throughout his career, 2 NCAA championships throughout his, college career, a 4-time All-American, so top 6 in the nation as a college athlete, and then the same thing as a young person. So I've had the pleasure of knowing this guy for, about probably 15 years now. But he's going to tell you his story and talk to you about what it takes to be number 1 in the world. And hopefully we can steal a little bit of that and be number 1 in Wellbridge. So we'll see. Sammie, I'm handing it over to you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. We're ready.
All right. Well, I've seen a lot of clapping, so I'm excited. You guys got me pumped up here. For me, everything begins with my philosophy, and it took me a while to figure out what my philosophy is, because in our life we all work hard, we all try to do the right things, but to come up with your philosophy in 50 words or less, or come up with your philosophy in 2 words or less, it's kind of hard to imagine that everything you do, you can bring it into 2 words or less. And it took me about 3 or 4 days when I was coaching in Oklahoma to really come up with what I do, what makes me tick. Sure, I work harder than anybody in the world, I believe that. Sure, I train smarter than anybody. Sure, I utilize the people around me and make myself better, just trying to surround myself with the best people I could in all walks of life. What I did well my whole life, and what really drove me, was being consistent. So my philosophy would be consistency wins. And over time, if you're consistent, it's, the days that you don't feel good, the days that you feel like you don't want to work, something happens and, you might have a sickness in that day, you have to be consistent. The days you feel great, you still have to be consistent. And there's several different things that you need to be consistent in. And for me, I broke it down into 4 different things for me, and I live by this in my daily life. And my wrestlers live with this too. We have it on my wall out here, and it's just one simple thing is be consistent in your training, you're working toward excellence. Be consistent in your personal and spiritual growth. So, you're doing the right things daily. Be consistent in your personal respect and treatment of others. And be consistent in your goal setting and adaptability in adversity. Because I believe these things in my life, and I never usually talk about them, but for you guys, I believe that you wake up every morning and you tell yourself that you're the best. You don't go around talking about it, you don't tell other people, but when you look in the mirror in the morning, you tackle the day telling yourself, hey, I'm going to be the best in the world at whatever I do. And to do that, I have to do the little things right. And that's the thing. Everybody wants to do it when you feel good. Everybody wants to, tell us, hey, I got this written down. This is my goal. But what are you willing to do for those goals? And very few people are willing to sacrifice everything they have for one moment of. And I was never in it for glory. I was in it to win. It wasn't about getting my picture in the magazine or being known. It was mainly, honestly, I hated to lose and I wanted to win in everything I did. And this particular thing in wrestling was my life. And so in my life, I felt like if I lost in the wrestling match, I didn't do everything I needed to do to be the best. And what I found out, and I'm just giving you a little background, what I found out in the Olympics is in 2000 that wasn't true. I was the best. I did everything to be the best. And in that moment, I figured that, everything happens for a reason, because at the end of the day, there was nothing more I could have done in that moment to be the best in the world. I was world champion. I'd beaten the guy 5 times before that, and on that particular day, it just didn't work out for me. But but I look back on it now, and I know that I gave everything I had. And see, so then you're still a champion. Win, lose, or draw, you're still a champion because you gave everything you have. So for me, I want to leave you guys. I want to bring this up to you, how I conduct business. When I took over this program last year at West Virginia, we had no All-Americans for 7 years. I've had 17 All-Americans in the last 17 years, so I've had an All-American everywhere I've been. And for you guys, I mean, some of you guys have probably moved a lot, but I moved 9 times in 13 years. So, every 2 years I was at a different location. And so much experience being around the best coaches in the world and getting to see what makes them think and tick and see the things that maybe I don't think that they do that I would use as a coach. So as a world champion and NCAA champion, I had a plan. I always had a plan, and with a plan, I had a follow through. A lot of times we have a plan, but we don't live the daily life to follow through with that plan. And I hold my kids accountable here. These student athletes, I call them kids, but they're 18 to 23-year-old young individuals who make mistakes, and we work through those things. For me, I worked hard and smarter than anybody in the world, and I believe that. I believe when we have blind draw at the Olympics, and what that means is, for you guys that don't understand, in the Olympic Games, there is not a seeding criteria. It's just, basically, I go in, I reach my hand in a hat, and I pull out a number, and it could be me and the #1 guy in the world, and we both wrestle first round. So, for me, everybody was standing back. They want to see the numbers go up. I was the first one that went up and just drew a number because I believe I'm the bad draw. I believe I've done everything, exhausted every avenue, utilized every situation to be the best in the world. And so I think when you have that attitude, good things happen regardless. I believe you have 7 things you do well, and I call these areas of concentration. 7 things you do well and 7 things you don't do so well. 7 things you need to work on. During the year, what I do with my athletes is I have them write down 7 things they have that their areas of concentration that they really think they're good at, are great at, exceptional at. And then they have 7 things that they're not so exceptional at. And what we do is we work on those 7 things. We continue to work on those 7 things they're great at. Like Jordan Burroughs, for you guys that don't know anything about wrestling, he has the greatest double leg in the world, but nobody can stop him. He can take down anybody in the world with it. So he continues to work on that double leg. He doesn't stop doing that. And for us, for 7 things you don't do so well, you continue to work on that. At the end of the year, when we get to the national tournament, we want that to be those gaps to bridge, and you basically have 14 things that you do extremely well at that point. And that's what happened last year. I had a guy who was a freshman. I pulled him out of red shirt in the middle of November, and he was unseeded going to the national tournament, and we beat 4 guys that were ranked 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and number 6, I think, on the way to the national finals, and we had an All-America for the first time in 7 years at West Virginia, my first year here. So that's not an accident. One of the things people don't probably do not realize, and that they thought it was a fluke or whatever they may have thought, but a lot of preparation went into that. We had the areas of concentration. The plan didn't always go right, so that's where we adapted and we overcame. And I say we because actually he did it. I just was along for the ride. But I was excited. I was excited to be a part of him. And in my career right now, I get more excited about seeing other people succeed than I do myself. And I think that's a sign of a leader who cares and has a heart. And I'm a player's coach. I'll do everything I can for you. But if you don't give that back, then I'm gonna stop doing those things. I'm gonna do everything I can as long as you're showing up on time. You're doing the right things off the mat. You're treating people with respect. And I think those things go hand in hand. I think if you're a great wrestler, to be a great wrestler, or to be great in anything, elite leader, you have to be willing to do the things that you are, that other people aren't, and treat people with respect. And one is to have a map. And I believe you have a 5-year plan, you have a 1-year plan, you have a daily plan, and a weekly plan and a daily plan. In the daily plan, that is the plan that really matters. All of them matter. And they're called goals, and each one of them, as you go down 5 years, 1 year, weekly, they get a little bit more detailed. But really, honestly, the daily plan, if you talk to any Olympic athlete, every Olympic athlete I know lives in the moment. That means that they live that day to the fullest they can. They're not thinking about tomorrow, they're living for that moment. Communication, I had an athlete the other day who was a freshman here and he was having a hard time. And we have weekly meetings with my staff, my academic advisor, my strength coach, my trainer, my dietitian, and everything came back with this kid saying he's got a problem, he's got an attitude problem. And I was glad to know that I wasn't the only one that felt that way. But what I did was I brought him in and I talked to him and I asked him, I said, what's wrong? Why haven't you came to me? And he goes, well, coach, I feel like that you're going to yell at me, that you're not going to. And that's when I realized that I needed to change a little bit with myself, and I need to adapt and overcome and make him feel more a part of this program and feel I got to be more accessible. So that was one of my things for 7 years of concentration, have a roadmap, communication with my athletes, be a student of your work. We talked about that. Basically, studying, getting around the best people, making sure that you're always learning. When you stop learning, you're done. So I'm always learning. I'm always trying to better myself by going to world championships, being around Olympic athletes, being around Steve Date, who helps me in different areas. Also adaptability. I want to talk about this real quick. Adaptability for you guys. Really, adaptability means to me that all great athletes can adapt. In other words, I had a recruiting weekend last weekend, and I had a bunch of my staff members tell me that we don't ever follow. They came up and joked around and basically telling me that we're not following the plan. We had an itinerary, the schedule, and we're not following the plan. And they were joking. Well, during that time, one of the things I had to do was, one of the athletes had not seen the campus and his parents had to see the campus, so I took him on a recruiting, basically a campus visit. And during that time I came back and I told him, I said, this schedule is always, it's tentative, always. You have a schedule, but it's always tentative. When you're not able to adapt, then there's truly a problem in your work. You have to be able to adapt at a drop of a dime. So what I would compare that to is in wrestling, the greatest athletes I know, the world champions, they adapt in the match itself. So during the match, as the match is going on, if something goes wrong, their plan B and C and D take over as the match goes on and they become victorious. The wrestlers that maybe, they're not there yet and they're climbing to that, they probably have to come back and work and go through video review and there's a little bit more time that goes into that. But the greatest athletes, the greatest professionals I know, and even with myself, you have to learn how to adapt at the moment that you're in. And that's what I try to pride myself in. On loyalty, when I got hired here, I hired for loyalty. And I want to share this with you because loyalty goes both ways. It's not just loyalty to my staff, but it's loyalty that they'll be loyal back to me. And so, one of the things I talk about is reaching for the stars through loyalty with character and integrity. And loyalty to each other, loyalty to the program, loyalty to winning the NCAA team title. These are the things I needed to have. Everybody on staff has been in my life some way, some form before. Just because I believe that you have to be on the same page if you're going to get to the top of the mountain. And here's the biggest thing for you guys, and I think this is big for any corporation. I need somebody that's going to stand up to me. I need somebody that's going to come in my office and say, Coach, you know what? I think we could have done this a little different, and we need to work through this next time. And I might sit there and maybe agree and adapt through that. But I also might say, you know what? I know this you feel strongly about this, but we're gonna have to agree to disagree. And when we walk out of this office, it's my way. And so those are things that I think that that has to be number one, and loyalty in the family. But so we don't have a lot of talk or chatter on the message boards or outside our family. And I think that's huge. And for any corporation to have leaders who have people that are trustworthy, and that when we talk to each other, it's all about, hey, Zeke Moisey might be hurt, but it stays right here. We're going to work through this. He's a teammate. He's part of the team. Let's make sure we pick him up here and get through this. Last thing, play hard and train hard. And that's it. I think you play hard